Well, at the start of my career, I was a programmer. I started programming video games, and I burnt out of that. I got very tired of programming all the time. I enjoy programming, but not something I want to do all the time. So for me, testing was a wonderful discovery because it allows me to use my social skills and my all my thinking skills and my programming skills too, but it doesn't keep me trapped in one thing for too long. And then I discovered that I love teaching, and so I became a teacher of testers. So now I have testing, but also the fun of teaching and coaching people. So there are a number of different aspects to what I do, and there's enough variety for me. But to answer your question very directly, I originally wanted to be a mathematician or a physicist, but I didn't have any patience with academic life and going to school. Then I wanted to be a soldier, but I don't have any patience with taking orders. And then I thought I'd like to be a spy, but I can't keep secrets very well. I don't like keeping secrets. And apparently, when you're a spy, you have to keep secrets. So, really, testing is the only thing that's left. The most interesting thing in testing about testing for me is in the psychology of thinking, is how people think, how they get ideas, how we can control the ideas that come to us. How can we help each other get better ideas? That to me is endlessly fascinating. The psychology and cognitive science behind testing. And I think I'll also add one little thing, which is in the practice of testing, what I find most interesting is when I can work with very large amounts of data, uh, many thousands or millions of data points. I get very excited. I like to find ways of visualizing input and output data, producing it automatically with tools. That's fun for me. Uh, Anytime I have to do something reliably on a schedule, I get very bored of that quickly. I like to work with ideas and puzzles and solve puzzles. I I don't like to have to be anywhere at any particular time or do something when and not forget to do it. I would rather have somebody else have to do things that require responsibility.
Okay.
I'm a puzzle solver. Every single problem that ever gets past me, I want to know why that happened. I want to keep it from happening again. I take it personally whenever I miss a problem. And if you mean by defect retrospective, trying to understand why a problem occurred in the first place and how to prevent that from happening again, I'm not often involved in those kinds of investigations. So I don't have much opinion about that. But I am very concerned when a problem sneaks by me.
Mhm.
Well, I think it depends on the bug. There are some bugs that if we find them, such as certain kinds of security bugs, we should stop everything and say what is going on, because if there is this bug, there could be 100 more like it. It's just like real life insects. If you see a fly in your kitchen, well, that means a fly got in your kitchen. But if you see an ant in your kitchen, That means an ant colony has gotten into your kitchen. That means there's 1,000 more or 100,000 more ants that are about to come at you. So you react differently when you see an ant than when you see a fly. And I react differently when I see some certain bugs, which indicate that there's a big problem in the development process, than I do with certain other bugs that might just be a misspelling or some inadvertent mistake.
You agree with this
Well,
approach?
why don't you take it further? Why don't you say that instead of spending your time on quality assurance, you should spend your time teaching people not to need computers or solving world hunger because world hunger is obviously more important, or bringing enlightenment to the world, creating peace throughout the land. Uh, I guess you could say that if you get tired of testing, you can do lots of things, but that wouldn't be testing, is the problem. Testing is looking at a product and understanding that product and understanding if there are problems there. Imagine if you're a guard, let's say you're a guard at a military installation, and you say, well, instead of being a guard, what I really should be doing is trying to understand why people might want to break into a military installation. So I'm going to go and study that in university. Does that mean that you no longer need to guard the military installation? Of course, you need to guard it. So even if somebody is going to be working on quality assurance and bug prevention and all that, which of course those are reasonable things to do, that does not lower the need to make sure we find those bugs. So I do not believe that we should take away from testing just because it is also interesting to prevent bugs from happening in the first place.
Mhm. um, Great answer. And my another colleague has
Oh, wait. I have one more thing I should say about that answer, and that is a reasonable justification for lessening your testing is because that the risk of important bugs has reduced. So if through whatever quality assurance processes that you follow, you can reduce the incidence of damaging bugs, and you believe that the technology now has less bugs in it and can produce fewer bugs that matter, then of course you can reduce testing. So you don't reduce testing until that risk has actually gone down. That's my point. You don't reduce testing because you hope that the bugs won't be in the product. You reduce testing because you have a good reason to believe those bugs are not there. And then you can have fewer guards. Well, you've got to become very, very good at testing very complex things. So you've got to be developing your social skills, your technology skills. You need to learn more about the different kinds of technology. I think that you will, generally speaking, need to be working on coding skills too, although there are alternatives to that. You don't have to be a coder. You could be also a teacher of testers or a testing consultant. There's a kind of tester that I call a test jumper, which is someone who is so good at testing that they can jump into a project like a commando, and they can get testing going on that and help other people test and then move on to another project. So becoming an internal or external testing consultant is something that you can do. Essentially, that's what I do. I I enjoy testing, But what I'm actually paid to do these days is to teach testers. That's where I get my money. I have to do testing, usually for free, for no money, in order to practice my art so that I can be very good at teaching testing. So essentially, the money that I get for teaching testing finances my own self education, my ongoing self education as a tester. Since if someone were to pay me to be a tester, they wouldn't be paying me enough. I need a lot more money than I can make as a normal tester in order to support my family. So I do want to just be a tester who does coaching, but the way that I make that work is by being a consultant.
Um,
Biggest thing that has happened in my part of the testing community has been the discovery of systematic ways of talking about and developing what's called tacit knowledge as opposed to explicit knowledge. And this has happened because of a sociologist by the name of Harry Collins, whose work has influenced Michael Bolton and myself and several other people in the context driven testing community. And before Harry Collins talked about tacit knowledge, we didn't have a systematic way, a good way to explain the difference between explicit knowledge and tacit knowledge. And that meant that tacit knowledge remained a kind of mystical thing that you couldn't really talk about it. Now we feel we have some very good ways of talking about tacit knowledge and systematically developing it. And that means we can protect tacit knowledge from managers and other people who don't know anything about it. So we're gaining important tools intellectually to grapple with the deeper skills of software testing. And to me, that's the most exciting thing that's happened in the last few years. Yeah, I that's this is very important to me to coach testers who come to me over Skype. I do it anytime that I have time to do it, which is pretty frequently. I will do it. I also enjoy doing it a lot, so I will postpone other things that I'm paid to do in order to do a coaching session. I did a coaching session just last night. Uh, Once in a while, I do scheduled sessions, but mostly people just come to me on Skype and they say, "I heard you do these lessons." And if I have time, then I say, "Okay, let's do one right now." And sometimes it's training, sometimes it's coaching. I do both, and I have to do it partly because I have to stay sharp in my craft. And I can only stay sharp through practice. I must practice and practice, and I develop ideas. And to do this, I have to have people to work with to make that happen.
yes.
Sometimes they come to me and they have a specific need, or sometimes it's test reporting. They want to learn how to do better reporting of their test results to their bosses. Sometimes it's a particular test technique, like combinatorial testing. They want to understand how to do all pairs testing or something like that. Often they don't know what they want, so I will involve them in whatever research that I'm working on at the moment. So I'm often developing new test exercises and I rub my hands together and say, "I'll try my new exercise on you." And then I give them, I tell them to go to a certain website and they have to test that. And then We talk about what happens, and I get more material for some article or presentation that I'm about to do. I would say is how people mistake fact checking for testing. That they think testing means looking at a product to verify some particular fact is true about that product. And what I have to show them is that testing is much more than that. It includes things like fact checking, but that is uh, fact checking is only a relatively small part of what testers need to do. So I'm constantly explaining that. I also have to explain to many people that testing is not quality assurance. It is not ensuring that the quality is there. We don't do that. We're looking for problems, is what we're doing. And that is something that is possible and that we can do a good job of. Whereas quality assurance is something that is well outside what a tester is able to do.
Mhm.
Well, I can't accept the premise of your question. I think that well, first of all, there's no such thing as automation testers or automated testers or manual testers. There's no such thing. You seem to be trying to distinguish is, let me put a little more light in here. What you seem to be trying to distinguish is testers who write code in the course of their work and testers who do not write code in the course of their work. All testers use tools. Using tools of all kinds is a normal testing thing for every tester. You can, for instance, use Excel. So even if a tester is not a tester who writes code, that tester can learn all about Excel, right? They've got to learn how Excel works and how they can work with data in Excel and analyze data in Excel and all that stuff. So you learning about tools and technology is the same for all testers, regardless of whether you code or not. Now, if you code, of course, learning about coding better and different things you can do with code is a valuable thing. Um, but apart from technology, apart from learning about technology, and apart from even learning about the users, what testers need to learn about is reasoning and modeling and experiment design. And this is something I find that testers, whether they're coding testers or not coding testers, it seems that very few working testers have a very good idea how to design experiments, which is important because tests are experiments. So you've got to know how to design an experiment and you've got to know how to model a product. That is to create, construct a mental representation of a product and then turn that into an explicit model at times that you work with out here, so either it's a mental model or it's an explicit model. Either way, testers work with models of products. They reason about those models and they design experiments with regard to those models and to help validate the truth of those models. That's what testers do. And that's a very important aspect of at least two skills that we need to develop.
Um,